Good morning, everybody. Can you all hear me?
Absolutely, perfectly.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Welcome and good morning to the Skillman International Forum 2020. We have a very, very exciting schedule of activities and speakers over the next 2 days, and we're so very glad that you are able to join us today. So our opening session comprises 5 amazing speakers, and I'd like to introduce the very first one. Mr. Giovanni Crisona is the founder of the Skillman Consortium. He's an international consultant on capacity building in the TVET sector and the founder and president of CSCS in Italy. He's also the managing director of ABU Plus International Germany. So before we begin quickly, just to say, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them into the chat box and we can address those at the end of the opening session. So without further ado, Mr. Crisona, over to you.
Thank you very much, Julian, for this outstanding launch of the conference 2020, the Skillman International Forum 2020. It is an honor and a privilege for me, on behalf of the Skillman Network, to start the works of this sixth edition of the forum, which has been organized in collaboration with IVETA, that you represent, AR, EAPRIL, and in partnership with the European Training Foundation of the European Union. Thank you very much for this support and collaboration. And before starting to explain the reason why we are here today, in my opinion, of course, I want to thank you, all the participants, for being here. It is not possible for me, for reason of time, to mention all the delegations and our Skillman's members present today, the honorable speakers, the distinguished personalities, all friends, colleagues, public officials at national ministries and regional administrations, which, being here together or during the next 2 days, are confirming the great interest that the Skillman Network generates around, and the great success of this initiative that, by coincidence, falls on the same day as the 3rd European Educational Summit that is attended by several European ministries, and I think is a magnet for participation, but we also hope to have our small success in this regard. I thank you. I thank very much the experts for accepting the invitation, and a special mention to the European Commission, which provide us with the necessary resources to deploy our activity, but also with an effective support during the works, because the European Commission allows us to benefit from its outstanding speakers, like Mr. Santos, that will follow my turn, and I think he is also very well known by many of us. Thank you, Joao, to be here. I wish also to extend my deep appreciation for their support to ADB, ILO, JRC, CEDEFOP, OSD, and ETF, in particular to Giorgio, my friend Giorgio Tsimios, that is a team leader and of an important team that we collaborate with, and for their efforts to further develop the role of the network of the Networks for Excellence in TVET that we believe so much. At the moment, there are 82 participants connected, but more than 450 in turn are expected, because last subscription arrived yesterday night, and to this number. We have in front a drive that we want to go through, and it's our drive, our Skillman drive, and this drive, of course, that starts from a vision and arrives to an excellence identification, is very much in line with the European Commission and European Union acts. And now we have a lot of changes in the field, and even a few days ago we can mention last one, the Osnabrück Declaration, that it's a sort of, not the Osnabrück Declaration, but this drive is a sort of continuous renewing and refreshing of important values that we as a Skillman network bring on. The declaration of Osnabrück confirm completely that our line is very much overlapped to the intentions of the European Commission, and we promote green and transition to digital. So what we can read now in the European Commission Acts and the official page, that the TVET responds to the need of the economy, but also, and this is our very important part for us, also provides learners with skills for personal development and active citizenship. I think that behind this statement there is all the essence of the Skillman network collaboration, because we have this very much important commitment to ethics, and I think that this combination among technical skills and skills for life and for work, it's a focus point that that is one of the arguments that fill the forum even this year. So excellence for us is not excellence for someone, but is excellence for all. I would like to mention here the important work that ETF has published with the team. And I also would like to mention Julian Stanley, my friend from ETF, that also remarks this concept of excellence for all. And the social dimension and the green skills are our dimension, the dimension of the Skillman network. So what we are looking to promote is something that match together a new vision or innovative vision, but now it's not anymore the right definition. We have this strong commitment to an horizontal concern that include the social dimension in our activities. So we want to have, as a Skillman network, a strong impact. We want to give a sense to learning, giving not only technical skills, but matching the technical skills with the reason of life. So for a peaceful planet and for friendship and for promoting a good and right society in the differences of our cultures and point of views. So how we are promoting this now? We are launching, after the Skillman Florence Declaration of this year, that was officially then published this year in February, that was the result of the work of the previous Skillman International Forum. We are now launching our Skillman new ethical campaign that is starting now. You will receive the link to endorse the campaign in the next days, and we are still in line with the Council recommendation of the European Union for sustainable competitiveness and social fairness and resilience. We are in line with the European Pact for Skills. Probably the next speakers will explain better all these concepts. So our campaign look to have an ethical engagement in the advanced manufacturing sector. Do we have an impact on this? I think that our modest work is collecting in some way results and is collecting a good feedback. The network is growing up. Now we are passing 600 members, and we are collaborating seriously on the direction of the excellence for TVET. In this regard, we have created a sub-network of members, a network of members that are collected under the umbrella of the Coves.eu and Global COVES initiative. This was started last year in 2019 with several meetings and engagements at territorial level. And we are going to put together all these partners in coalitions, regional coalitions that are composed by companies, policymakers, individuals, and vet providers to look at the regional dimension, to look and to focus into the innovation and into the market needs to create with what we have called the Skillman anticipation life cycle, or the Skillman anticipation wave, to look to changes, to identify what are the skills needed for the future, and to provide the labor market with this, with the right labor force in time and not in delay, as always we suffer from this system. And of course, in this, we want to include ethical values that can be not only considered as important for the system, but can also be embedded in the curricula pathway. We try to make this work in two directions. One is internally to the Skillman network, and the other one is involving other partners, other stakeholders, with a continuous effort in creating places where it's possible to discuss the issues, and not only at European level, not only in Europe, but also extending this presence in other contexts, in other cultures, with collaboration of other organizations. We will see the collaboration from Asian countries that is very much important, our strong partners from Bangladesh, from China. We have this collaboration open with ADB. So everything is bringing us in a general and very, very big discussion, and with the different kind of stakeholders involved. What we are doing in concrete in terms of collaboration among TVET providers that look to excellence for all is to have established a system for a systematic approach to the excellence evaluation and improving. In this regard, we have this tool that we are developing. We have passed the first stage, and now we are, and there is an important workshop during the Skillman Forum that will talk about the setting of the Skillman assessment, the self-assessment tool of Skillman. And this mechanism that we promote is a common self-evaluation based on the 25 variables that we consider in the literature as the starting point, and then to make a system that allow our partners of the Global COVES initiatives to tune the variables to deal with the excellence considered as a result that can increase and can be measured, like in the graphic that in the chart that you can see now, establishing goals level and going on with the changes and collaboration. The first period of application of this system that is in continuous and now is under development was involving 100 organizations. You can see a big amount of turnover behind them. You can see from these numbers also a large number of teachers and professors and trainers involved in this mechanism. So we have collected important information, and we have produced a first stage analysis on the excellence on TVET. I think my time is going to finish, but I have the hand. I have the end in front of me of my speech with just a remark on the last 3 points that we think important to be fixed for understanding our intentions and our purposes, our drive. One is the interpretation of TVET. I use TVET because we are collaborating and our network is composed by partners from all over the world and not only from European countries. So we need to consider the TVET as an homeostatic system. This is our idea that requires an holistic approach and not as a closed system that regard only the experts and the professionals of the field, the professors, teachers, tutors. No, we need to open our world to other contexts. We need to collaborate with the business world. We need to have a more wider perspective. The sense of community must drive us addressing global challenges, the mega trends, the biggest points of, you remember the Skillman Florence Declaration and the discussion and debate in Florence. We need to address these mega trends, and we have to look to the regional dimension that is the only one that allows us to cooperate. I would like to mention that we have several regional governments that are engaged, actively engaged, and that drive this discussion for the Global COVID initiative. We will see, I was saying hello before to Anna Maria from Apulia region, but we also have the Emilia-Romagna regional administration that is very well engaged, and several other organizations from Sweden, from Austria, from Germany. So finally, we have to consider excellence not as something that provoke barriers, but something for leveling up the performances of all. And we need to go behind the traditional function of TVET, thinking to provide our services not only to students, but providing everyone with skills and qualifications for life and work. This is, I think, very much important message that I would like to leave you. Thank you very much for your attention to my modest speech. I hope that this forum will be of success like last year, and I hope that you will find all your space and way to interact and collaborate. Thank you very much, Julian. The floor is next to you. Silent moment.
Okay, finally, I'm unmuted. Thank you very much, Giovanni, for that very wonderful opening speech. And I'm sure some of your salient points will be expounded and discussed over the next couple of days. Good morning and good afternoon to you. If you've just joined us, welcome to the Skillman International Forum 2020. I hope you'll take the opportunity to interact with us and put your questions in the chat box for discussion later. Our next speaker needs little introduction, particularly if you've been involved in Erasmus Plus programs. Mr. João Santos is the senior expert in the Directorate General for Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion at the European Commission in Brussels. Mr. Santos is going to be talking about European Union strategies for COVEs, or Centers of Vocational Excellence. Mr. Santos, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to start by thanking the organizers and the team of Giovanni Crisona, because I'm sure it's a tremendous amount of work to set up a conference like this. So congratulations once again for organizing this, and also for inviting the Commission to be present. I will have a short presentation. I will try to put it on now. Can you see the slides?
Absolutely, yes.
Perfect. Okay. So what I'll try to do in the next 12 minutes, it's not much time. So some of the things I'm going to just briefly touch upon them is, if you want the learning outcomes of this short session, are three. The first one is that we want to give you a word of encouragement for the work you are doing on the Centers of Vocational Excellence, because you'll see they are very much part of the actions we are taking at the European level to modernize vocational education and training. The second point is that we are not only having this policy drive, but also putting money where our mouth is, in the sense that COVE initiative is being supported with a very significant budget in the next multi-financial framework. We are still finalizing the discussions with the Parliament and the Council of the precise amounts that will be available under Erasmus+. But beyond Erasmus+, there are other funds that I'll briefly explain that are also supporting the initiative. And the third element is that we are not only having a policy drive, having funding for the initiative, but we are also providing a set of support services to make sure that the projects that are engaged in vocational excellence are adequately supported with technical expertise, with networking opportunities, and with scientific research and development, so that these projects can be more effective. So I will now go on to give you the wider perspective, policy perspective, although Giovanni has already mentioned some of it, that what we are doing is not isolated and just something for vocational education and training or vocational excellence, but it in fact fits a much wider strategic a view on policy making in education and training. The first element I would like to mention, which is a wide framework on how we relate also to other education and training sectors, is of course the European education area. It was a communication adopted on the 30th of September that provides 6 dimensions in which we have to work together, the European member states, and I would say the world, if we want to modernize education and training and ensure that it is fit for purpose. This strategy has 6 dimensions. I'm not going to get into detail, but it includes quality, inclusion and gender, green and digital transitions, teachers and trainers. It fits these 6 dimensions, sort of provide the framework for the work we are doing to achieve a European education area. But besides this, we also had our Vice President launching the skills agenda, which was adopted on the 1st of July, which provides 12 very concrete actions. So not only anticipating future skill needs, but ensuring that we mobilize society in general to understand that skills is not only an issue for the education and training sector, it's really a societal challenge if we want to address it, and we have to bring companies together, very much like Skillsman is doing, bringing all the relevant stakeholders together to discuss how we have to prepare the education system, and not only discuss, but really deliver on the ground. And the last element I'd like to share with you is what we are doing under the umbrella of the European Pillar of Social Rights, which has as its first principle the possibility and ensuring that everyone has the right to lifelong learning, not only the young people in getting the qualifications they need for the transition to the labor market, but in particular the adults, the millions of adults throughout Europe that will need upskilling and reskilling to maintain employability and quality of life. And in this respect, I would like to mention 2 particular initiatives, very recent initiatives that have been taken. The first one is the Council recommendation on vocational education and training that Giovanni has briefly touched upon. And here we've identified, together with the member states and also the social partners, what should be a strategic vision for the future of VET in Europe. We're talking about not only ensuring that VET is agile and responsive to what are developments in the economy and society in general, making sure that VET is a driver for innovation. So not only focusing on social inclusion, where it obviously has a very big role, but also having VET as an element for growth and for social inclusion. Beyond the VET recommendation, which, as I said, sets a strategic vision of European VET cooperation, we had just a few days ago, on the 30th of November, the Osnabrück Declaration that goes beyond the member states, but also brings together the social partners, and I would say a very important element, the European associations of VET providers. There were 6 in particular that had a declaration supporting the Osnabrück Declaration, but also the people that we are supposed to be serving, which is also the young people, the learners. So bringing together, supporting this declaration, the European Apprentices Network, and OBESU as well. And what the Osnabrück Declaration does, in complement to the Council recommendation, is provide very concrete areas of action that are linked to the Council recommendation, which, as I said, sets the strategic view. The Osnabrück Declaration is more practical in the way that it defines 4 major objectives to ensure that we deliver on the Council recommendation. Now, going to what is the core of our discussion, I'd like to share with you just a 1 minute of a short video explaining what the Centers of Vocational Excellence, the way we've conceived it at the European level, is all about. I'm sure that many of you have already seen this video because, in fact, it's one of the most viewed animation videos we have in the area of VET, but there might be some people that haven't seen it yet, and I will try to briefly explain what are these elements afterwards. So here we go. So I hope the video gave you a brief overview of what is the concept behind the Centers of Vocational Excellence. But just to tell you that what we want basically is to create a sharing community, transnational collaborative platforms in which the very best that is happening in the Netherlands, in Ukraine, in the Basque country, in Italy, that the VET centers and the VET stakeholders, because it's not only about the education system, but also companies, public employment services, policymakers, regional development agencies, that they come together, they understand strategically where a region wants to place itself in the future, and then uses the capabilities of the education and training sector to contribute to innovation, to regional development, smart specialization strategies, and cluster strategies. So this is basically the idea we have behind, is that we all look beyond our belly buttons. We look at the very best that is happening in other countries, and we work together, we share experiences so that there's no need to reinvent the wheel, and collectively we can improve the provision of vocational education and training, looking at the individual, empowering the individual to have fulfilling lives and be employable. So this is basically the idea behind it. Now, what we are doing is, as I said, not only pushing for the policy, but also funding. And I'd like to mention that in the first year, in 2019, we launched a pilot call. We had very little resources at the time for it, and we were not completely sure of how the concept would develop. So we used this first pilot call to identify how the market was interpreting our initiative, and also to learn from these project applications, what do they have which was really unique that we could further build on to help us improve the calls for the future. In the first year, we had quite a few applications, and we selected 5 very good projects. They are all there in the slide. You've got the web links as well if you want to get more details, but they cover various sectors, from advanced manufacturing, an excellent consortia that is also being established and led by the Basque Country, but involving, as I said, many other countries. We've got a cluster on water. We have one on digital innovation hubs. We have Internet of Things on smart manufacturing. And we've also got one that goes beyond industrial sectors, looking at cultural and creative industries. So these projects have been launched in 2019. They are finishing their first phase of their project, and we hope that we will learn from these projects to further improve the concept that we are developing for the Centers of Vocational Excellence. Learning from these 2019 pilot projects, in 2020 we launched another initiative of projects that in fact have just started their work on the 1st of November. Here we chose 7 projects of 55 that we received, and I think an important element I would like to mention is that of these projects that we received, project applications, we had in total consortia from 52 different countries, and 25 of them were outside the European Union. So this shows that the COVES, as also Skillman is a proof of it, is attracting attention worldwide and is bringing partners together from all over the world. So from countries inside the European Union and countries outside the European Union that really want to embrace vocational excellence as a way of modernizing the vocational systems and empowering people, providing people with the skills that will help them contribute to regional and local development. So this has been, I would say, one of the biggest achievements with the initiative so far. I'm not going to get into the details of these projects. I can provide you, we have fact sheets for each of them. I can provide you with more elements. And what I can say is that we are planning right now a new call, which we hope can be published during the month of January, February, depends on the negotiations that are currently taking place with the Council and the Parliament, but we'll have a new call, and in the next 7 years, we'll have every single year a call for Centers of Vocational Excellence that is not only open to the European Union countries, but to all countries all over the world. So everyone can apply. We will, of course, fund essentially the European partners, but we are working on to see to what extent we could also fund the parts of partners that come from outside Europe. I cannot guarantee anything, but I'll just like to tell you that we are looking into that aspect. Just to mention, of the 25 dimensions or activities that we support under the Centers of Vocational Excellence, we analyzed the call that we had last year, and we saw that the majority of the focus, which is good, is on developing business education partnerships, on governance and stakeholder involvement, looking not only at initial training, but also continuing training for upskilling and reskilling of adults. I'm not going to get into all these details, but just to tell you that there's a wide variety of activities that these Centers of Vocational Excellence are concentrating on. A final word, just to tell you that, as I said in the beginning of my introduction, it's not only about policy drive, so the skills agenda, the VET recommendation, Osnabrück, that's what we're doing on a policy level. We are funding, as I mentioned, and beyond the Erasmus Plus, I'd like to say that we also have the European Social Fund, the European Regional Development Fund. We have the Recovery and Resilience Facility with billions of euros to support the member states that they can use if they want to support the Centers of Vocational Excellence, but we are also developing the set of support services. And I'll just briefly tell you that we are thinking of 3 particular hubs, one which is knowledge, where we will try to develop new research supporting vocational excellence throughout the world, identifying ways of developing the concept based on evidence. We'll have another hub looking at capacity building and networking, so bringing the partners together so that they can exchange experiences, conferences, seminars where we will discuss vocational excellence, and then a technical assistance and counseling where we will provide concrete tools for the projects to develop, but also identifying sources of funding and so on. The last slide I want to share with you, and sorry, Giovanni, for going a little bit out of time, has to do with the community of practice on vocational excellence that we want to set up. So basically what we want is not to direct this, but to provide the conditions to create a community of practice in vocational excellence in which we at the policy level can listen to you, can understand what are your difficulties, what are your needs, what areas would you like us to conduct research on, what kind of support you need to be successful. But we want this community of practice to be driven by the practitioners so that you tell us what we need, what you need to help you make your initiatives on vocational excellence successful. So, Giovanni, this is what I had to say for today. I am open for questions if there is the opportunity to do it, but you can also send me, in the first slide, you've got my LinkedIn and Twitter accounts. You can also send me an email, and I'll be happy to answer if there's any issues that you'd like to discuss with me. So, thank you very much, and I wish you a very successful event.
Thank you very much, Mr. Santosh, for telling us and reconfirming that policymakers and governments are supportive of the VAT industry as a whole, and that there is a pragmatic and practical way forward for us to achieve excellence. So again, if you have questions for Mr. Santosh, please put it into the chat box, and we are going to move on to our next speaker. There's a slight switch in proceedings, and I would now like to introduce Mr. Daniele Bassan, who is the project manager for the World-Class Manufacturing Research and Innovation Unit for Fiat in Orbassano in Italy. And he is going to talk about industry's contribution, specifically Fiat's, to the Global Coves Initiative. So over to you, Mr. Bassan.
Thank you very much. So first of all, thank you also, Giovanni, to inviting myself. I will show you how an industrial partner can be an active actor in the skill ecosystem. But I will start giving first a short introduction about my company. So Fiat Research Center was founded in 1978. It is a global innovation research hub, and currently has also a network that is more than 1,800 partners that are from industry and also academia. We have something like 2,000 patent rights that are protecting close to 500 inventions, and our mission is mainly to develop and transfer innovative product and process and methodologies to improve the competitiveness of FCA Group. Giving some word on and an overview on FCA Group, on the left you can see FCA brand and also the companies. While on the right, there is the company dimension. FCA is operating in over 40 different countries with over 100 plants and over 40 research and development centers. In 2019, the overall vehicle production was set to 4.5 million, and worldwide the employees are something like close to 200,000 units. This is just to give you the idea of what is behind. The Fiat Research Center is located in Italy, north of Italy, Turin, as you can see also in this picture. But move to the world-class manufacturing. World-class manufacturing is a production methodology that has been adopted by FCA plants worldwide and involve the entire organization from safety to environment, maintenance, logistics, and quality. The primary objective of world-class manufacturing is the continuous improvement in our area of production in order to guarantee the quality of final product and also to meet customer expectation. The projects that are developed under world-class manufacturing methodologies target the elimination of all forms of waste and loss, with the ultimate objective, as you can see on the bottom right, of achieving zero accidents, zero waste, zero breakdown, and zero inventory. In 2006, the world-class manufacturing became a Fiat commitment, started with the Fiat Group Automobile in 2005, and now in progress with all Fiat Chrysler Automobile and CNH industrial sector. The world-class manufacturing is now extended also to suppliers, supporting them in the implementation phase through a dedicated team of engineers. And in 2006, was also created the World-Class Manufacturing Association that collect all the companies in the world that are applying the world-class manufacturing system. But in particular, world-class manufacturing also a dedicated training team. Training in world-class manufacturing plays an important role, not only as a support of activities in the world-class manufacturing pillar, but also determining factor in the creation of the world-class manufacturing culture, and then developing the specific know-how, and finally as an opportunity for internal resource growth. In the factory, we have also the people development pillar that has a direct role in identifying and implementing training action through the priorities that are outlined by the cost deployment. But there is also the dedicated team of training, the world-class manufacturing training and consulting within the world-class manufacturing department that support and implement training initiative in the manufacturing world, adopting the training method that you can see listed right in this table. The world-class manufacturing training consulting perform also study session on the best practice to scout the most valuable solution to be then transferring to the company. We have a specific toolbox that are using in order to improve finally the skill of people and the company performance. A world-class manufacturing training and consulting team on the left. In the center, we have also the world-class manufacturing academies. So basically, each plant is going to have a dedicated area that is called World-Class Manufacturing Academy, where people are trained on the new technologies, on the new solution, in order then to improve and speed up the technology transfer from the research to the application. We have also the professional and leadership skill that are used to support the FCA manufacturing activities, the supplier, the association company, and also the external company that are belonging also to industries that are other from automotive. They provide training solution both in person and also in remote mode. We have finally also the World-Class Manufacturing Web Academy that provide via web training on world-class manufacturing, technical training, and other kind of training as Industry 4.0, electrification content, and other. Finally, I would like also to mention that we support school program because the training consulting team and also the academy support several projects of collaboration with school and university. One example, for instance, is also the high school orientation, but also we organize plant visit for students and so on, just to share our know-how and just to involve young people in the manufacturing world. I will take now some slides already presented by our previous presenter. In the past, this is the skill ecosystem, and this is just to give the idea of our role in the skill ecosystem. So, as an industrial company, we have strong interest and active role to address skill development for business performance on the new technologies that are then selected and developed in the research center. But we have also a role as a trainer, because we have the World-Class Manufacturing Academy, and there we normally improve our personnel with the new technologies. Then there are also the other actors in the skill ecosystem that I already know. And more in detail, our role is consisting in the following point. According normally to the company industrial need, we look for new solutions to be then adopted in order to improve the competitiveness of our product. We perform technology scouting through research and development project, also in connection with other research European center, university, and supplier. So we can identify, select, and optimize relevant new technologies in the manufacturing field. Thanks to this action, we can go through a skill foresight analysis in connection also with the university and the vocational center. And we can provide input in terms of education training needs. And just to close the loop with this input, then the university and the vocational center can then qualify new personnel that we can include in our company in order to speed up the technological transfer from new technologies from the research. Going to our previous experience with the Skillman project, basically we started in 2014 with the participation of Skillman project. In the same year, the Skillman network was launched officially, and we were also co-founder. In January 2015, then started the Skillman project that was also based from our side on the curricula definition on industrial need. And we take also part of the technological observatory that was born in the Skillman network. And finally, the first Skillman International Forum was set in 2015. Our role in the project was mainly focused on advanced manufacturing sector. It was the identification of new emerging technologies, the development of the technologies through also our research and the development project, and then the identification of training need by the curricula definition in order to provide input for subsequent implementation in the production. And in particular, in the Skillman project, we identify some curricula related to the Industry 4.0, in particular, the Industry 4.0 Energy Manager, the Industry and Production Manager, and finally, the Industry and Production Specialist. So, as already mentioned, our role was also in the Observatory for New Emerging Technologies. And starting from the Industry 4.0 evolution, you can see in the bottom the main topics related to the technology that were also considered in the Skillman project. The current driver in the industrial and advanced manufacturing field are a sort of evolution of Industry 4.0. And by the adoption of new technologies related to the artificial intelligence for process management, new device for immersive reality, like also the integrated physical one, the digital twin, and also new IoT solution. So starting from this current driver megatrend, we can look for the new training and educational needs. So basically there is an increasing trend in the demand for highly specialized skill and profile in leading areas for green and digital transition, such as artificial intelligence, including big data, blockchain, including also cybersecurity, cloud computing, Internet of Things, robotic, and all relevant advanced manufacturing solutions, emerging technologies in additive manufacturing, electrification, and as well also hydrogen. The digital transformation required a training system moving from a logic of providing educational programs to a logic of training new skill and profession. So it's also urgent to reduce the gap between the market that are represented also by the industrial needs and the VET, intervening both to increase the supply of expert and graduate and to strengthen the quality of paths of study, updating teacher, assessing university performance, promoting new courses, including also cross-sectional activities. And for that, the cooperation in the interaction among all the actors committed in the course initiative is the key for the success. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bassan, for your wonderful presentation. It just goes to show that it's so important for all the stakeholders in VAT not to work in a vacuum, but to actually share their experiences and help to build each other's sectors up. Our next speaker is going to be Alexa James. Now, Alexa is the Director of Education System Leaders at Microsoft, and her expertise lies in education, technology, and public affairs. Alexa will be talking about the new programs in skills by Microsoft corporations. The floor is yours, Alexa.
Thank you, Julian. I'm really pleased to be here with you all today to give you some insight into the work that we've been doing at Microsoft around future-ready skills and how we partner and wish to partner more closely with other companies and with the TVET sector to continue to build skill sets of young people graduating from TVET institutions across Europe. So we've all seen that 2020 has been a pretty mind-blowing year for the TVET sector. It's been incredibly challenging for TVET educators, for leaders of institutions, and for the students themselves to adjust to the new normal, which is emerging as part of the COVID situation. And it's meant that there's been incredibly quick pivots in terms of how teaching and learning is happening within the institutions, and particularly there's been very high pressure on educators within institutions to adjust to a more digital way of teaching and learning so that students can continue to learn even at distance. And when we look at the figures right now coming out of UNESCO, who are monitoring the education system as a whole, we see that across the world, only 1 in 3 students are actually back in the physical classroom. And for the TVET sector, that number is even higher, is even lower in terms of who is actually back in the classroom, because the students are older and so subject to many more constraints. We've also seen that students in the TVET sector are incredibly concerned about their future. The economic fallout from the COVID situation is really impacting young people, both from a psychological standpoint, but also in terms of concerns about their ability to go out and get a job when they graduate from their education career. And so at Microsoft, we've really stepped up our response to skills development in response to the COVID situation. We have launched numerous new programs to ensure that we can support education institutions, individuals, job seekers, students to get access to the skills and knowledge that they need to really survive and thrive in the digital economy. And using the power of insight that we have from the LinkedIn graph, which is part of the Microsoft family, we're really able to track and monitor what exactly are the skills that are needed to build learning pathways in response to job market demands, and to then offer those to institutions so that they can integrate those with the teaching and learning and curriculum that they already have in place. So COVID has just really sharpened this need for fast digital transformation, not just in how we teach and learn, but also in what we learn. And when we think about the manufacturing industry, there is a big shift in terms of the skills needs. And this applies equally across the economy. This data comes from analysis of the World Economic Forum and OECD research. And we're seeing that across the education sector, and including TVET, and for the job requirements for any graduates coming out of the education system, there's a huge increase in demand for technological skills, and this has only been sharpened by the COVID situation. We see even traditional businesses that were very reluctant to become digital are digitally transforming to adapt to digital payments or creating web ordering processes. But equally, because of the distance and the challenges that people are facing, there's this big rise in the need for social and emotional skills, for people to be able to interact, to be empathic, to be responsive, to be collaborative, to be communicative, and a growth in the need for higher cognitive skills, where we're able to really think about building new approaches, building new systems, and a reduction in the need for those traditional basic cognitive skills and physical and manual skills that would have formed a part of a more earlier industrial revolution pathway. So we're now in this 4th industrial revolution where there is a scarcity of that tech talent, particularly a scarcity of people able to combine deep vertical sector knowledge together with technology. And we're also seeing a growth in the need for companies to think about diversity and inclusion. Those companies in the manufacturing and in the technology industry who have a stronger focus on diversity and inclusion are more successful on the job market, on the stock market. They're able better to design products which suit a wider range of people. So this is really increasing in terms of the needs on the job market. And we're seeing a dramatic increase in the use of AI and automation throughout industry, which is only going to continue to rise. So we need more young people who are able not just to consume digital tools, which we know they're very good at, but to really produce and to create using that digital insight and using high-level professional digital skills. And we're also seeing within the manufacturing sector that the value of the technology components within products is increasing. So for instance, I was talking some time back with the CIO of Daimler-Benz, who was telling me that the value of the IT components and the software within their cars far exceeded the other materials and the other parts of the vehicle. So when we want to adapt to this challenge, we need to be thinking about how can we digitally transform to enable new ways of learning, teaching, and working, and also how can we better bring these partnerships that you've all so well described to happen regularly at scale, to be a part of the normal way of teaching and learning in education institutions. And as we're still in this phase where so many students are learning at distance, we're also seeing the challenge that many students are feeling disconnected from their learning. They feel that they're learning alone. We've seen an increase in the dropout rates in most institutions because students don't feel sufficiently supported and engaged. And even from a product design perspective at Microsoft, we've been working very hard to address this. We've found that traditional online video interactions where we're all in small boxes have a high cognitive load compared to being in a traditional face-to-face classroom. And that's why there's this kind of Zoom fatigue or online meeting fatigue that we all talk about. And what we found by redesigning the actual interface and using this example here, this is Teams Together mode, by getting students and faculty to feel as if they are more like in a traditional room, creates a stickiness of experience, creates a more social experience than in a traditional video call. And I've seen it myself when I've been running trainings. People start to try to reach out and almost touch each other virtually. And it breaks down a lot of the barriers where people in virtual environments and students in virtual environments often sit back and don't interact to the same extent as they would in a real life classroom environment. But this is challenging for the educators to adapt to. And so we've been working extremely hard to support educators and faculty to redesign the way that they deliver learning, the way that they approach their curriculum, that they build these hybrid approaches through offering training in our online platforms and regular webinars. And we're working to partner with TVET and universities to really build that learning culture, to get students excited about technology and STEM, to get students ready for jobs with industry relevant material, and to offer curriculum and training for faculty and educators to be able to deliver high-tech training in IoT or in AI or in creating automated workflows. So the way that we see this is that in the TVET stage, we really need to be ensuring that we're landing those computer science fundamentals, introducing programming and design thinking, introducing the cloud, introducing AI, and then as students become specialized to then align to different roles, whether it's more financial and technical skills, whether it's manufacturing skills. There are different role-based pathways that we provide which can help students to segue into a job in that space. And we offer the Imagine Academy for free to any institution which is using Microsoft Office. This is particularly well used by TVET institutions where we're bringing in that computer science fundamentals, data science, but also productivity skills, because as I mentioned, we see young people being great digital consumers, but not always great digital producers. And as they become more confident, and we then suggest to switch to the Microsoft Learn program, which is where we go really deep on technology. There are bite-sized tutorials, engaging modules, hands-on sessions where students can actually build real solutions using cloud products. It enables you to build out pathways according to your area of interest. And we offer all of this also to education institutions. So for educators in TVET institutions, you can sign up to download all of the teaching materials, the curriculum that can be used to introduce some of these really high-tech topics into your manufacturing curricula. And we're also offering a beta program, which we'd love to have more of you join, where we're also offering training to the faculty who engage in these programs, as well as the opportunity to work with us to jointly map curricula and to create new courses which really integrate manufacturing and other TVET topics together with these really critical digital high-level skills, which are so essential for success. One of the big challenges we have seen during the COVID phase has also been that many institutions and many students want to take the formal Microsoft certifications as well as taking the curriculum. And it's very difficult to actually manage a physical in-class examination. And so we worked really hard to create a new exam from home experience so that any student could actually take an exam from home, from their own room, and be able to actually graduate with those Microsoft certifications alongside their traditional academic pathway. And we've dropped the cost of certifications for education compared to what we offer to professionals. And in the education space, they cost 1/10 of what the certifications cost for people in businesses and in other roles. I also want to touch briefly on really exciting and emerging technology approaches for driving manufacturing skills specifically. We have some fantastic work going on with mixed reality using the HoloLens, where we are offering businesses the opportunity to build skills experiences using mixed reality. And so by bringing together distance experts together with mixed reality overlays over manufacturing equipment that students or new hires may be interacting with, we're seeing the ability to offer richer training, also to reduce potential problems with expensive equipment where you don't want things to go wrong. And we've seen really amazing results with the businesses and the universities and the other institutions that we've been bringing this technology in to work with. So we're seeing reduced errors, reduced waste, and really transformative projects coming out of using this emerging technology. So amazing opportunities in how we can partner in terms of curriculum. I think this is the right time for us to come together as industry, as education institutions, with the support of governments like the European Commission, to really build back a new normal post-COVID, which is richer, more aligned to what students really need as they graduate from institutions, and offering them exciting possibilities and opportunities for their future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alexa, for highlighting some really key issues on inclusivity, accessibility, and the need to combine some methodology in the madness. Our next speaker, last but not least, is Georgios Zissimos from our friends, the European Training Foundation, who will be talking about the ENE, the ETF Networks for Excellence. So without further ado, Georgios. Looks like we may have lost Mr. Georgios.
Probably they have some connection problem. We can also open.
Hello.
Okay, Giorgio, good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Loud and clear. Okay. Just to say hi with my video camera, and I will switch off my video camera. I think it helps a bit because my connection is really weak. So apologies for that. I hope it allows me to do the presentation. So I'm Georgios Zissimos. I work for ETF. I'm leading a team for the Centers of Vocational Excellence. We are partnering with Skillman in this attempt, and we are grateful, of course, for all the work they're doing. Thanks to Giovanni and his team, but also all the other partners all around the world. It's impressive, this work. Only by looking the list of participants today, where they come from, I think it's very impressive. So before I go on these slides, let me just say that, comment a bit on the title of this forum, that you're talking about redefining the future of learning. And of course, in this idea of redefining, we need to see what are the three key questions for pedagogy over the centuries when it comes to learning. And these questions, of course, is what we learn, how we learn it, and for what. If you consider that all around the world nowadays, we are all learning around the age of 12 to 13, the Pythagorean theorem, which was discovered by Pythagoras 2,500 years ago, but we still teach that today. I think it puts in perspective this idea of redefining. We are all learning, for example, the Newton's law, which were discovered in 1680. And we do that all around the world under the physics subjects at the age of 13 to 14, more or less. So the question of what has not changed, in fact, so much. Now, what we learn from these two examples is different. So how we adjust this learning to the modern needs, that of course needs a lot of redefinition, and I think this is a very valid question. How we learn it, it's equally important. And of course, the example that we heard from Alexa in her speech before me, noting the importance, the value of distance learning, for example, is crucial in this question. So with this as an introduction, let me go to my first slide, which is what you have now, how we see the centers of excellence. Because these three questions, what we learn, how we learn it, and for what, they are fundamental in this idea, in this perception of excellence, not only vocational excellence, but excellence in education and training in general. In our work in ETF, we have done several studies and research to identify the different understandings and perceptions of excellence in different countries all around the world. And from that sort of research and study we have done, we attempt to take vocational excellence as an idea, that as a process that is for continuous development. So we do see centers of excellence as engines for VET development, beacons for VET reform. We see them as cases of good vocational schools. You have to be a good vocational school to grow into an excellent center or a cluster. They are examples of commitment. Commitment is crucial when it comes to change and improvement, because you don't only change yourself, but you change others with you in this process. And of course, there are examples of good partnership. Usually, we're not talking about one institution, but a cluster, a group of institutions that they gather together. Often they include companies, they include universities, research centers, innovation centers, and so on. Next slide, please. In the next slide, we try to see what do we gain out of this discussion. Why talking about COVES? Why is it so important? Again, you will hear today, I'm sure, but in all the meetings where the VET community gathers all around the world, one key element comes first in this discussion: to improve attractiveness on VET. How do we improve attractiveness of VET? Well, you see that excellence and VET is not a very compatible couple in this discussion, because often VET is not perceived as an excellent option. So we think it's very timely to exactly discuss about these two elements together: how VET can become attractive and how VET can become excellent. And in doing so, we see a value in discussing about COVES regarding the human capital development, how we provide skills for learners, for adults, for young people. How do we make VET more attractive and relevant, but also how we address global challenges and internationalization of VET through the centers of excellence. Next slide, please. So following this discussion, we came up with this idea of network. We launched our network last week. I can recognize some of your names in the participants list from last week. I think we met again. So we developed this network where all the centers of excellence from different countries can join in and work in partnership to develop partnerships, to develop networks, to exchange experiences, to develop tools that are relevant to their work, and so on. And it's not just open for centers of excellence. It's open also for their partners, for the businesses that are involved in these partnerships, for the universities that are involved, for the knowledge centers, the competence centers, the research centers, and so on. So it's an ambitious goal. We have already 100 centers of excellence involved in our network. They joined us in the worst possible conditions, in times of lockdown all around the world, which again shows the commitment that is behind this term of excellence. And we are hoping that it will grow into a platform where all these interactions will happen: peer learning, partnerships, and tools. I will talk a bit about that in my next slides. Next slide, please. Now, in talking about excellence, of course, one can identify different elements of excellence. And already Giovanni talked about 25 dimensions of excellence. There can be more, even more than that. In our center, in our network, we want to focus on eight dimensions. The first one is lifelong learning. That means, how do the centers of excellence contribute not only to initial TVET, not only to young learners, but also to adults? How do they contribute for reskilling and upskilling of the working force? That's very important. You cannot be a center of excellence just focusing on young learners. The second dimension is education and business collaboration. This is fundamental. It's probably the number one. Any center of excellence has close collaboration with businesses, and they do that to develop curricula, they do that for work-based learning, they do that to understand the needs of the labor market, and so on. The third dimension we want to focus on is pedagogy. Of course, this is an obvious one. How do we train teachers? You need to have state-of-the-art equipment. You need to have the best teachers that are around. You need to have good curricula in order to be a center of excellence. So that's really fundamental. Number 4 is about smart specialization. How do the centers of excellence respond to smart specialization strategies where they exist? So smart specialization strategies, they develop niche areas. They need to identify skills for those, and then you need to provide those skills. So the centers of excellence, they have a role in this discussion. The fifth area is on the next slide. It's about Industry 4.0 and digitalization. How do the centers of excellence contribute to it? This is where advanced manufacturing comes in, by the way, that Skillman is so dedicated to. It comes under Industry 4.0. It's an important element of a center of excellence. Number 6 is about autonomy. You cannot be a center of excellence unless you have autonomy. Autonomy when it comes to financing, autonomy when it comes to pedagogy, autonomy when it comes to governance, to take decisions, to be flexible. Number 7 is about those international goals that I spoke earlier on, about the sustainable goals, about the green agenda. How do the centers of excellence contribute to that? And this is our 7th dimension that we want to focus on. And the last one, but very, very important one, is the social inclusion. How do the centers of excellence contribute to that? How do the centers of excellence train migrants, for example, or refugees? If they are indeed so good, they have to be engaged into this social dimension and contribute further to the society. So these are the 8 dimensions we focus on our network. Let me explain a few of our actions in my next slides, very, very quickly. So the next slide is about self-assessment tool for COVES. we developed a self-assessment tool. We would like to think that this is a unique tool that helps the centers of excellence and the network itself to identify needs for further development, for further cooperation, for further elaboration. The self-assessment tool focuses on 7 of the dimensions I mentioned earlier. Is not yet ready for the social inclusion, but we're working on that. It's translated, of course, in French, Russian, and English, because these languages are relevant to the countries we work for. We have tested that over the summer with a number of different centers of excellence, and it has been launched last September to all our members. Next slide, please. So there are 7 dimensions in this self-assessment tool. You can see them on the next slide. I mentioned them already before. There are 3 levels of the indicators we use: foundational, developing, and mature level. It means that every center of excellence that fills in this self-assessment tool can identify where they stand when it comes to those 7 dimensions. And we added one last dimension, which is about leadership and collaboration, because we want to identify those centers of excellence that can lead a cluster and work with others in certain dimensions. What you see here are the preliminary findings that we presented for the first time last week. I said already that we launched this network in October. We received 70 completed questionnaires. That is a good rate, because by then we had only around 85 centers of excellence members of our network. You can see that many of them responded in Russian, some of them in English. And we involved in our testing also member states: Germany, Slovenia, Spain, Sweden, etc. Next slide, please. Now, this is an interesting slide, which gives us already some information about what the centers of excellence we asked consider as their top priority, let's say. And you can see that from the 70, 69, they said that education and business collaboration is their key concern. They want to work more on that. How do you do that? How do you work closer with the businesses? How do you have trainers train in businesses? How do you do work-based learning, apprenticeships, and so on? This is fundamental, and this is something that we're working on. And of course, ETF has a long experience in those. Industry 4.0, autonomy, it's crucial. 65 say that we want to work on our autonomy, because that's what allows our flexibility to engage in different sort of needs. Lifelong learning is crucial. Pedagogy is crucial, and so on. Next slide, please. So to test the idea of partnerships, we decided to kick off some partnerships ourselves as ETF. So the first one, responding perhaps to this need that centers of excellence need to contribute, need to work closely with the business world. The first partnership was on work-based learning. So it's under that dimension of business education collaboration. We kicked that last summer. And because of that, we have 12 online coaching sessions going on, 6 coaching missions. We have a cluster of centers of excellence from different countries working together. And the result of that work would be to design a baseline study. That means that they will tell us where they stand in terms of work-based learning. There would be an evaluation progress to see what has been achieved. So we want to repeat that in the years to come. And there will be, of course, many peer learning activities. This is work ongoing. And in March 2021, when we're going to have our second part of the launch event, we're going to present in more detail the findings of this exercise and be able to contribute to the discussion all around the world on how do you improve work-based learning in centers of excellence. Next slide, please. This is about our second partnership, which of course you can identify there the logo of Skillman, because in this partnership, it's more institutional one, and we wanted to work with platforms of providers like Skillman, and of course that delivered a lot of benefits for both of us, I hope. Many online sessions, many exchanges, and opportunities for Skillman and ETF to contribute to the work of each other. There is work going on digitalization, and of course, next year we are going to have even more activities. This afternoon, you will hear from colleagues from ETF talking about different dimensions of this collaboration. Next slide, please. The next partnership that we launched very recently, and here you can see just the figures. I don't want to reveal yet any results, but it's about autonomy. Again, we recognize the importance of autonomy for coves. And what you see here are the countries involved in this partnership, where the centers of excellence clustered together, and the aim is to develop a baseline study on autonomy and at the same time design some policy briefs. Why policy briefs? Because we want the policymakers involved. It's not enough to work just with one center of excellence, but we need to have this sort of transmission of excellence that we often preach in ETF. That means to help the vet system to grow beyond just the centers of excellence. So this is our third partnership. It's ongoing, and you will hear more about that again in our March event 2021. The next slide is about an area that is becoming, of course, very advanced nowadays. That is of smart specialization. Many countries develop smart specialization strategies to identify niche areas that they want to develop further, to understand what makes sense for their own local needs, but to also support the economy. But of course, those smart specialization strategies, they are not complete unless they have a skills dimension in them. And once you have, of course, the skills needs, you need then to have the provision of those skills. And that's where the centers of excellence come in. So we're working now on the skills for smart specialization. And the next slide is about our tool that we are working on, our model, let's say, our approach, which is a rather complex one, which shows what do we take into account when we try to match the provision of skills with the skills needs and, of course, the smart specialization strategy. And you can see, of course, there are a number of different elements that we need to take into account to make that match happen. Now, that was my last slide. What you see here really, it's how to come in contact with us. We published on our website and on open space the result of this work. We also put on our website, started now, but it will be complete soon, the work that other centers of excellence are doing. So we want them to see each other and communicate with each other. And we also published on our website the presentations and the findings, the discussions from our launch event last week. So if you want to keep track of our work, then I suggest you follow our channels on the website, Open Space, Twitter, and Facebook. That's it. Apologies for the connection problems I had. I hope this was fine now. I'm at your disposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yoyos. It was a wonderful presentation. And as you can all see, we're running a little late. So we're going to sort of just change up the schedule a little. We're going to move into the discussion session. And I've actually received a request from Elena Romanini to put a point across. Elena, if you're there.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you very much, Julian, for this space, and good morning to everybody. My question, yes, is a sort of reflection after this inspiring contribution to the different speakers. And I was just to underline that under the Skillman network, we are working hardly to build an excellence network, so a COVES network, in order to put together create sustainable partnership among different stakeholders, valorizing skills and competencies, complementary competencies of the different organizations. So according to us and our approach, excellence is a result, so is a continuous process of improvement, as Georgios has said, based on sustainable partnership, exchange of practices, experiences, and expertise. So we think that only working together, exchanging such expertise, and also sharing tools for reaching together this excellence goal, this assumption could be a sort of common strategy we can share and can reinforce ongoing, because it's extremely important to increase the attractiveness of TVET, basing it on this continuous exchange and peer learning process. So I would like to ask to the speakers if this assumption related to complementary of skills and sharing of tools according to a continuous process of improvement could be agreeable as interpretation of excellence. Thank you very much.
Would any speakers like to respond to Eleanor's comments? Nothing? Okay. Shall we take our next speaker, please? I believe I've got something from Manos Andriadis from Greece.
There is a message by Georgios. We can take.
Oh, okay, yep.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, you're on.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, yes.
Yes. We cannot comment because we were muted and we cannot unmute ourselves. So if I may, just to comment on what Elena said. Of course, one side of the question links to this idea of having a definition about excellence. And currently, of course, there is not such a global definition of excellence, of vocational excellence. I think we have similar ideas, but we interpret excellence in slightly different ways all around the world. And of course, it makes sense that these definitions, they reflect also to the context that excellence is supposed to take place, the local markets, the skills needs in the society, and so on. So there is not one definition which creates some problems, but at the same time, I think it's interesting to take that on board. Then the response to skills is of course a fundamental dimension of vocational excellence. I think we all accept that a center of excellence contributes to the provision of skills, and of course that is not only for the labor market, but it's also for the individual development, either through reskilling, upskilling, and so on. So that's also crucial. Networks of centers of excellence, they can bring together these different elements of excellence and make it happen. Now, the crucial point about the networks, of course, is that they are not there when you need them. If you haven't developed them from before, if you haven't developed the capacity to build a network from before, it will not be there when you need it. Sometimes the capacity comes to simple things like language, for example. If you don't have English capacity, for example, which it is the international language often in these discussions, how can you build the partnerships? It often comes with connections with other local stakeholders that they might have the questions and they may help you build it. So that's of course relevant. It comes with governance structures. how flexible is your governance to allow you to take decisions to accommodate needs that they are not always there in the first place? Autonomy, financing, vision, these are crucial elements that you need to take into account if you want to make this match of skills and skills provision through centers of excellence. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. We have another question from Manos Andriadis from Greece, please. He needs to be able to unmute his microphone.
Thank you. Now it's fine. Very interesting presentations indeed. I would like, from my part, to reflect some works we have done in Greece about the COVES. We worked with a number of stakeholders in industry and the VET, and I would like to say that it was perceived with great interest. We started some work under the Skillman Global COVES, and all of them considered as a great idea and a very good potential. We're looking forward to work closely with other experienced partners because we need some know-how transfer on this and some stakeholders in order to be able to also develop some centers of vocational excellence in Greece, because there is good potential also here, and very good partners. We can give also know-how transfer and make something, a very good platform on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Manos. There are a couple of questions which we can take very briefly. Alexa James, are you still there? There is a question for you asking if there are any requirements for non-European institutions to make use of teaching and learning resources at Microsoft.
Thank you. So, well, Microsoft is a global company, so our programs are available globally, and we welcome any institution, whether you're from Europe or from anywhere else. So please reach out to us. We're happy to help connect you to the local teams and make this work for you wherever you are.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And there are also a couple of questions from our partners in Africa who want to know, and this is to any partners, any of the speakers present, how can African organizations and institutions benefit from partnerships with European organizations or other international partners? So anybody feel free to respond to that.
Can I say something, Julian?
Yes.
Well, it's part of our mission to be able to work together with such far from Europe, I mean, or such different cultures. We activate as a Skillman network collaborations in Asia, in African countries, and we are moving then also to Americas. We need to have a global view on the skills needed for the future, because as we are used to say, the curricula of today are the society of tomorrow, and we want to design the society of tomorrow. We don't want to wait that the society arrives in its way. We want to drive this process of development, and this collaboration is fundamental to put together different cultures, different views, different challenges, and to avoid that in the future there will be a gap, and to avoid that now the students and the learners from the African countries remain cut out of the access to the skills in advanced manufacturing sector. I think this is very important. What we can gain together is to have a level up of excellence and not to create even more differences among the most advanced countries in terms of technological development and the other countries that risk to be taken out of the game. So we need to integrate this vision in a collaboration, active collaboration, not just to say that this is important, but to operate, to make something concrete on the field. And I think this is a challenge for all of us, because as we know, as we see, it's very difficult. Nevertheless, these good tools that we use to communicate at distance and to create international conferences without the need to take the flight, but it's anyway very difficult to give concrete steps to the initial good intentions and to make the network to be an effective deployment of collaboration with concrete actions on the field.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Giovanni. In English, we have a very simple saying, don't complain about the dark when you can just turn on the light. So I think it's really up to us to make the effort to make connections, create partnerships, and make those partnerships work for us. We have our next speaker, Mohammed Yadak.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for the speaker. In fact, I have a comment and a question for Mr. Bassan and Alexa. Well, when we designed the curriculum, I think we can find a strong curriculum, but the problem is, or the issue is, the question how to bridge between the strong curriculum that, okay, we have a strong curriculum that involved all stakeholders and the manufacturing industry, but the facilities of the school, of the provider, will be, it is not so good to implement this curriculum. So how we can bridge this issue? And we, of course, sometimes we find a strong personnel also, a qualified personnel, but the facilities, I mean, the TVET is a progressively continuous change, and how to be updated with the technology, with minimum resources, particularly in developing countries.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Basically, one of the points is that if you think about the current situation, yes, it is all in evolution, but you need to supply some basic skill that can be used to adapt each time to the new situation. In the curricula we already defined, there was some instrument that can be as well used even if the facilities are not so updated, because also starting with some open sources solution like Arduino based or similar, we can really have a lot of opportunity to teach students the basic information related, for instance, to Industry 4.0. There are also some other equipment that are not so expensive. So I'm meaning on, for instance, the 3D printers. If you think about just the basic 3D printer that you can find on Amazon, then the software beside is already Arduino based, and it is also a good instrument to teach students how to use this kind of equipment, but also how to use the CAD that is behind, how to use the CAM that is also the programming code. And all this information can be really used to provide the right skill to the student in order to fulfill the next need that are facing in the industrial world. So it means that you do not need really to have the latest industrial equipment, but you can also use some other solution that can be affordable for school or similar. There are also some other equipment, like for instance, I have one that is a small 3D printer, but is a 3-in-1 because it is a 3D printer, it is a laser engraving, and it is a CNC cutting. And I have just bought it for my family in order to enable my children to start learning that. I'm just showing you the system. So this is just a 3D printer, but you can change the head and you can use it as a CNC or laser engraving. So the software are free. You can download all the software you need, and then you can use it to teach young students how to approach for the Industry 4.0. This is an example.
Thank you.
And I'd just like to echo what Daniele talked about. I think, yeah, absolutely, platforms like the Arduino and we also partner with other chipset providers to get those types of low-cost, easy-build devices into institutions. And we've built a number of programming courses and materials that can interface with them. And in the case of the microbit, which is a very simplified one really for entry level, we've actually created also a virtualized microbit. So if you don't have enough in the lab or in the workshop, you can also offer access through a computer to have the programming experience without necessarily having the device. The other thing is, from our side on Microsoft, we have made almost all of our programs and also our software platform for teaching and learning available for free for education. So pretty much everything I presented today, with the exception of the mixed reality headsets and actually taking the exam, is all free. And we're also working really closely with governments. So through our partnership with UNESCO in the Global Coalition for Education, we're actually working to advise governments to think about new connectivity strategies, new procurement strategies, to make sure that schools and education institutions have the technology that they need in the institution, because obviously there's a need to accelerate the access that students have, and the COVID situation has really sharpened that need. So that's something that we're also working very hard on the Microsoft side to support.
Thank you, Alexa and Daniele. We have another question now from Zunara Nauman.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, good morning. This is Zunara from Pakistan. Thank you very much for this valuable platform and very, very useful information. I just wanted to know if there is any recommendation to have a course on curriculum development, the course that we are talking about, the integrated curriculum for TVET sector, an international platform for this. Thank you.
Who would like to respond to that?
So I'm happy to go there. We don't have an international platform for that at the moment, but we are working on a more integrated approach to co-curriculum development across multiple institutions. And we will be launching some opportunities for institutions to come together to share best practice on what they've been doing. That's part of our Microsoft Learn for Educators program, so that will be coming soon. But we can work with you individually at the moment around those curriculum development questions, particularly around the technology integration. And in the next 6 months or so, we expect to have that ability to cooperate between institutions as well.
Julian, if I can add something about this, we have developed a database of a unit of learnings that compose different curricula, as the colleague Daniele Bassan mentioned from the collaboration with Fiat. And we have this material that is available and under development, under further development within the Global COVES initiative collaboration. So all the other colleagues that belongs to the network that wish to have to access to this collaboration are welcomed, and in this regard we work in the field of excellence, also looking to the curricula, not only to the identification of the skills but for the future, but also working on the curricula development, and the collaboration is also addressed to this. There are also mobility activities that we envisage across TVET providers, our members and companies. But of course, now for the pandemic, all this is suspended. We'll start again as soon as possible. Now we are conducting, for example, virtual study visits. That is also another innovation that was brought from the pandemic. And we hope that we can restart also on-site study visits for professionals and for teachers and trainers as soon as possible.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I would now like to just take the opportunity to thank all our wonderful speakers today for sharing their expertise and their knowledge with us, and to everyone else for participating and joining in the discussions. Please take this opportunity to network with as many people as possible and create these international partnerships that we have been talking about all morning. So we have some time now to break before the next session in 5 minutes. So this affords you some time to go and grab maybe a coffee or tea and some biscuits and just chill out before we begin again. So see you all in 5 minutes. Thank you very much.